double celebration for my next guest, who is author Victoria Cornwall. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine, thank you. And thank you for having me back.
It's an absolute pleasure. Last time we were talking about your novel, The Thief's Daughter, which I believe is now coming out in paperback.
Yes, well, it came out in paperback yesterday, so I'm really excited about it.
How does that feel?
Well, the book itself felt lovely, actually. I had it delivered to me, and it's very tactile and beautiful chocolate. My publisher's done a wonderful job with it. So, yes, it's now available to buy online or order from your local bookshop, or go into Waterstones and Truro. They'll be stocking it. So
how's it gone since we last spoke a few months ago? And you're from St Breward, aren't you?
Yes, that's right.
So how's it been since you're waiting? You were just about published and out, the hardback.
I know. Well, I've been getting fantastic reviews on Amazon.
Yay.
And audio Soundings, an audio publisher, is now acquired it, and it'll be coming out as an audiobook at some date. I haven't got a date agreed yet, but yes, they've agreed to take that one and this new one that's come out. So
we'll talk about both then. So what are people saying about the book before we get into the story? What reviews have you been getting? Because obviously something set in Cornwall, there's a sort of instant connection for an awful lot of people around the world, isn't there?
Yeah, so you talk about The Thief's Daughter, the Captain's Daughter.
Thief's Daughter.
Well, they're saying that it's although it's inspired by Poldark, and they can see the link, it's definitely got an own story to it and own twists, and it sort of stands alone. So that's, that was lovely to read. But yes, I've got probably over 50 5-star reviews on Amazon, and all the rest are 4 stars. So I'm really happy. And
so you did the right thing then, didn't you?
Yes,
because you were quite nervous about it, weren't you?
Yes. I mean, my main sort of writing era is Victorians, but I wanted to start the story in the series earlier on, and I, as I said, Poldark was a great inspiration for me, and I wanted to use that era to start the series.
So we're talking the late 1700s, 1800s to beginning of?
Late 18th century. So late 1700s.
So where are we in The Thief's Daughter then? What's the first bit that takes us in?
Well, in The Thief's Daughter, we start off with Jenna. She's a child, and she's hiding from the thief taker. So the thief takers have sort of disintegrated her family, really, by taking each member of the family one at a time, because they're all thieves and rogues.
Why do they take the family? To sell them?
No, to prison. Thieves takers are sort of pre-police people, so they were nasty people. Well, they're meant to be good, although there was a lot of corruption going on. They were ordinary people that set themselves up and would be paid by people who's perhaps had debts owed to them, or had been robbed, and they'll pay them to go and catch the culprit. So then they'll catch the culprit, bring them to the person who'd the victim, and they would pay them and then take them to court. But of course, you could then, if you're a thief taker and you were a bit corrupt, you could arrest anybody, really, and say, I saw them steal your purse, and things like that.
So very early vigilantes.
Yes, very much so.
So what happens to poor Jenna then?
Well, Jenna's always vowed to be good and not break the law, because she's seen that it's not done her family any good. But of course, when her brother Silas is imprisoned for debts and needs her to help him get out of prison, because unfortunately, if you're taken to a debtor's prison, you've got to pay your debts before you come out. But of course, you're locked away. So how do you pay the debt? You've got to rely on family.
Catch-22, isn't it?
Yes, and the only member of the family that he's got left is Jenna. So she has to find a way of paying off these enormous debts. And she gets employment and is employed as a housekeeper by Jack Pinhale, but that's not enough money to get her brother out. So she ends up entering the dangerous world of the smuggling trade. But of course, what we find out later is that Jack has actually got links to the smuggling trade as well. And so their worlds collide in more than just housekeeper and employer.
I mean, as you said, Victorian era is where you love to sit.
Yes.
But this as well, you hark back to the poorhouse, the workhouse, the really harsh times that people have, that one day you'd be there with your father and the next day somebody would just come along and take him off with no rhyme or reason. Yeah. And as a child, we were just talking about the psychological damage done, like in Dr. Foster last night, where, did you watch it?
Yes, I did.
Oh, I know. So, I mean, inappropriate conversations in front of children, that can obviously damage them, and then you don't know which team you're going to go for.
Well,
but as a child, back in your book, what do you do if your father's gone and you're 8 or 9 years old?
Yes, and your father and your mother and all your brothers have told you that it's a good thing to steal.
Yeah.
Yet she's fighting against the system. And, it's a terrible turmoil for her, really, because there is a fine line of what is good, what is bad. Is it right to do a bad thing for a good reason? It's all very sort of blurred, and but children take on a lot more on board than we give them credit for, really.
And they have done all the way through, haven't they?
Yeah.
Very hard times.
Yeah.
So did you? So it's come out now in paperback, which is lovely, because I always like sort of folding a paperback into my case and taking it abroad and on holidays, and and taking it out sneakily for your lunchtime and sitting outside with it. So the reaction to that has been really, really good. Do you think there'll be any interest, as I said, for like a mini series like Dr. Foster 5 parts?
For the thing? Oh, yeah. I love that. I mean, my Cornish series, they are all standalone stories, so you can read them in any order, but there is a link, as in there's a family link from each one. So with, for example, The Captain's Daughter, there is a link to The Thief's Daughter, but if you've not read The Thief's Daughter, you can read The Captain's Daughter, and it wouldn't. Yes, it wouldn't
Why
matter.
The same name then on the next novel? Why is it Strong Women? Is it?
Yes, and it's easily sort of seen as series. That's the Daughter's series, so it's easy to sort of recognise it as well. But they are all strong women who face difficulties in a time that makes it even more difficult for them to face them, and they're both ultimately uplifting.
So Jenna's story ends in The Thief's Daughter, and now who are we with in The Captain's Daughter?
Well, in The Captain's Daughter, we meet Janie Carhart. So the story is set in 1868, which is sort of more towards the later reign of Victoria.
Janie sounds quite a modern name, is that?
Well, that's what I thought, but I've got a family tree that goes right back to 18th century, and I was looking for names that were Cornish-based, that would resonate and sound soft and nice, and Janie kept popping up in my direct family tree. And I thought, well, if it's good enough for my family tree, it's good enough for me. So I use that.
Well, no, I totally agree with you, because I was quite shocked when Pole Dart began with Julia, which I thought was a more modern name, so 1910, 1920s. Yeah. But no, of course, back in the 1700s, it was Ross Poldark's daughter that died, Julia.
And I love the name Janie. I'm surprised I've not heard it today, really. It's just a link to Jane. But So, Janie was daughter of a ship's captain, but due to a family tragedy, she's forced into domestic service. And although she rises quickly through the ranks, the story starts with her obtaining a post as a lady's maid to a Lady Brokenshaw, who's lives in a fictitious manor called Bosfenna Manor, and it's sited on the edge of Bodmin Moor. And she's caught between the two worlds of upstairs and downstairs, but basically accepted by neither. And she catches the attention of two men, James Brokenshaw, who's the heir to the Bosfenna estate.
That's trouble.
And Daniel Kello, a neighbouring farmer who's got a very dubious past. And gradually she learns the truth about both men. And as her life takes a shocking turn, that she has to sort of find her own inner strength in order to survive. So, she grows into a strong woman, and it's ultimately uplifting. But it's tough times ahead. I
was going to say, it always worries me in the staff in the big house when the young buck of the son comes in and he eyes up, and I always think that's never going to end well.
Yes,
and as in so many historical novels, we know that sometimes they have to leave because they're pregnant and they deny it all and all that sort of thing.
But all sorts of things can go on. I mean, a lot of the elements in the story sort of resonates today. There's the abuse of power in the workplace and prejudice of somebody moving into the area, harm inflicted by idle gossip. So yes, there's a lot, and we've all got to find that sort of inner strength in us if we come up against something that's sort of troubling or a crisis in our lives. So, but I was very interested to sort of write about the servant hierarchy. There's during the Victorian period, there was a huge peak in a number of servants used for households, and the upper classes had loads of servants, but even the middle classes had at least one or two. And as I sort of looked back into the old censuses and things of that time, even farmers had servants living in their household. They're not farm labourers, they were called servants, and they lived with the family in these very small houses. So, I was very interested to use that part of the Cornish history of, having servants in the home, and these grand houses next door to these tenant farmers and these, small little village communities that have got such a strong community. They know everybody, they know what's going on. If someone new in the area comes into the area, they they're a bit reticent until they get to know them and things like that. And all these characters will come up with these
class, you see, and it's still there today in certain ways, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So those two are done now. What are you working on next?
Well, I've got 2 more in the series coming out. I'm not sure what they're going to be called. I haven't got a date for release for them yet. And I'm actually writing one at the moment, which I hope to somehow get the clay industry into it. But I'm doing lots of research into the clay industry, which doesn't sound very exciting, but actually it is quite exciting when you start researching about it. And again, it's the Victorian period where there's a lot of changes in work and industry. And Cornwall was transporting most of the world clay back then.
Of course it was,
pretty well now, really. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, it's just another side of Cornwall that the tourist trade don't find out about. But I'm not finished that yet. So I don't even know if that will be published, but it's keeping me busy.
You're going from strength to strength anyway. That's the best thing, Victoria. It's lovely to see you again. Best of luck. If people would like The Thief's Daughter, and then The Captain's Daughter is on an ebook, is that right?
Yes, on all ebook platforms, yes.
So that means you can download it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Nice to see you.
It's lovely to see you again.
And nice to know you're working on another novel as well. And good luck with the clay. See you soon.
Thank you very much.